Is going on, everybody? It's Hector Martinez once again for Urban Kung Fu. And today we're going to talk about one of the coolest cats ever. The man with the perfect afro. The one and only Jim Dragon Kelly. That's right. Jim Kelly. When people mention the name Jim Kelly, of course, the first thing that comes to mind is Enter the Dragon. But Jim Kelly was a star in his own right. Jim Kelly was discovered back in 72 when he did a film called Melinda with Calvin Lockhart, Vanessa McGee. It was an amazing movie back in the 70s. It was part of the blaxploitation era. And Jim Kelly played a martial artist. He actually played Calvin Lockhart's martial arts instructor. Now, in this film, there was another actor named Rockne Tarkenton, a very tall African-American man, very powerful, intimidating guy. And he was chosen, actually, to play Williams in Enter the Dragon. But for some apparent reason, there was some misunderstanding. They couldn't reach an agreement, so they decided to go with Jim Kelly, and the rest, as they say, is history. Jim Kelly was indeed an amazing, very charismatic actor in Enter the Dragon. Not only was Bruce Lee the man, but we also had John Saxon's coolness and suaveness. But Jim Kelly, there were scenes when he stole the movie. Jim Kelly was and forever will be the coolest cat back in the 70s. You know, Jim Kelly went on to do Black Belt Jones, went on to do Three the Hard Way, went on to do Golden Needles, Hot Potato, Black Samurai, Take a Hard Ride. Jim Kelly was just a phenomenal character. I can't say that he was one of the best actors, but Jim Kelly had finesse. He had style, he had charisma, he had presence. And that was very important back in the 70s. I mean, a lot of these people from the blaxploitation era and the Kung Fu film era, not many knew how to act, but they had presence. And that's what was important. What you're seeing now actually is the 45s to the theme to Black Belt Jones by Dennis Coffey and Lucci de Jesus from back in 1974. And I had the pleasure of meeting Jim Kelly at the Chiller Convention here in New Jersey. And what was interesting is that when I presented him these 45s, he stared at them. And I looked at him and I said, Mr. Kelly, do you have any questions or any concerns about these 45s? And he says, well, yes, I've never seen them. I was shocked. Because here we are in the year 2000, and I believe it was 2014, when I met Jim Kelly, and he'd never seen these 45s. So I believe that what you're looking at are the only signed 45s to Black Belt Jones by Jim Kelly. And he had never seen them. And there's a lot of material out there, actually, that a lot of these actors never got paid for. They got paid a certain amount of money for the film, and a lot of the promotional material, the posters and the memorabilia and things that were licensed pertaining to the film, like products, they never saw a cent. And that's pretty sad, you know, because a lot of these people, they were indeed exploited back in the days. But still, it was a pleasure to see Jim Kelly. He was surprised to have seen so many fans still remember him. And, you know, I mean, how could you forget him? You know, Jim Kelly was indeed the man. And, you know, I decided also to collect memorabilia from his films because I enjoyed Jim Kelly. I mean, I enjoyed his films immensely. This one here is another example. This is the soundtrack to his very first film, Melinda, starring Calvin Lockhart and Vonetta McGee. And again, when I presented this to Jim Kelly, he was staring at it and staring. And I says, Mr. Kelly, don't tell me that you've never seen this either. And he goes, I have never seen this album. Didn't even know it existed. So again, I don't mean to boast, but I'm going to be honest. I'm honored and pleased that this is perhaps the only signed copy of the soundtrack to Melinda, because Jim Kelly had never seen this. And after he signed that album, he passed away shortly afterwards. Here, you're looking at another one of my favorite films, Three the Hard Way, with Jim Kelly, Jim Brown, and Fred Williamson. And I was lucky enough to get two of them to sign, two of the three, Fred Williamson and Jim Kelly, to sign the album. Looking forward to someday meeting Jim Brown. That seems to be highly unlikely because James Brown has been ill, suffering all sorts of different ailments, and I don't see him traveling anytime soon. But this was indeed another favorite film of mine from back in 1974 with a superb soundtrack. I mean, this soundtrack is indeed funky than funky, and I listen to it all the time. Here's another one. This is the action movie themes from Japan. Another one that I presented to Jim Kelly, and he was gracious enough to sign this one for me. And this one says, to Hector, I'll be too busy looking good. Oh, yes. And love collecting these soundtracks. Here is, this is a very rare 1974 8-track tape. And this one is cool because it's sealed. This is a book of matches promoting Black Bill Jones from 74. And this is a Black Bill Jones sticker. There's many of you out there that were born after the 80s. I mean, I'm feeling so old. After the 80s and the 90s, so you may not know what an 8-track tape is, but it sounded pretty good back in the days. Here I have a small collection of custom-made Jim Kelly 1/6 action figures. And these were, some of these were produced by a good friend of mine, Jaquan Allah, from the 360 Toy Group, which no longer exists. A great designer toy store based in New York City in the East Village. And he got somebody to customize some Jim Kelly heads. And I got these from him, and I bought the bodies, and I got some of the outfits to custom made by a tailor, and got my own Jim Kelly action figures. The first one is from Three the Hard Way, Mr. Keys. The second one is Mr. Williams from Enter the Dragon, and the third is Mr. Williams as well. And this one here, this is a French and German poster. And man, it's such a pleasure meeting Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly will forever be remembered as the man with the perfect afro, and as Williams from Enter the Dragon. Rest in peace, brother.